Hi everybody, Robert Ogilvie, Team and Leadership Coach. So today's question, why does emotional intelligence impact leadership? So I've talked in another video about what emotional intelligence is and then some of the specific competencies. In doing that, I've mentioned that it's a trained competency, so it is malleable, it is something you can develop. And when we're pursuing leadership development, we're again looking for something we can change and develop, or particularly I should say leadership development. There could be another end of leadership where you're dealing with leadership, more selection issues, and those could bring in more talent trait selection issues, and those might not be changeable, right? You might be looking for some trait that you can't change, and so it is about finding the right people that have these base traits to work from. But mostly what we're dealing with leadership is leadership development. We're dealing with developable skills and competencies, right? So that's essentially where these relate to. We know that ultimately, particularly once you constrain IQ to a certain threshold, EQ actually becomes a better predictor of performance. We know we also want to develop leaders throughout our organizations, right? Which isn't to say we want to develop talent, but then there would even be a segment of talent we want to develop, which we would call leaders, organizational leaders, or strategy leaders, or good managers, all that kind of thing, right? And so yes, we can teach them specific technical skills, right? And so this is like the product manager that needs to know how to do Gantt charts and project schedule and timeline planning, that kind of thing, or maybe something technical. An engineering manager might need to know. Right, those are technical skills. But a lot of these are actually these more generalizable skills around relating with others, being aware of what's going on. A ton of people management. And these apply to so many areas. It applies, so in some sense, one of the big reasons this is important for leadership, all these emotional skills and people skills, is that leadership by its nature means, I will use the term both one-to-one relationships to people that directly report to you, right, as well as many twin relationships. Lots of people could be in your organization or more in the market, more to your clients, that you also need to kind of manage your connection and communication with, even if it's not a full depth one-to-one relationship, right? And all of that is EQ stuff, right? So all of that relates to your applying you're applying consequential thinking, and you're recognizing patterns, and your ability to empathize, and you're pursuing noble goals. We also know that upper end executives, people in the upper entrepreneurial end that are working with strategy, right? That's positively correlated. People that are successful in that have higher trait creativity, right? So there's something even in terms of their ability to bring new solutions together and galvanize people towards things, right? It's true of all leaders, but there's particularly something in this realm which makes it very subtle and necessary. If you think of, let's go into kind of some stress stuff for a second, right? As what's professionally demanded of us becomes ever more creative, intellectual, innovative, right? We ever more need to manage our stress and find better ways to kind of collect and clarify and visualize our thoughts, because we're dealing with more complex issues and need more novel solutions to them, right? So we really need to bring our full brain power and effort and collaborative processes and communication processes to get the best out of them, and that requires an ever more subtle awareness of how people are operating, what we're feeling, how to bring out what we're feeling, how to continue to engage and get the best out of people over time, and that's all EQ stuff, right? So in some sense, this is more of a perspective issue, saying, hey, I believe that EQ is strongly related to leadership, but both of them really have a strong premise around bringing out the best in others and developing those competencies, as well as really EQ applies in lots of areas, but leadership is one of the main ones. So if you're working on good leadership skills, if you're working on developing your leadership capacities and competencies, you're actually working on a bunch of EQ skills. So that's why EQ ultimately impacts leadership. I'm Robert Ogilvie, Team Leadership Coach. Talk to you soon.